Hello. All my life, the guitar's been a source of great happiness to me, and I'd like to help you to enjoy the same feelings of excitement at making music by playing the best instrument of all, the guitar. Now, I've had the pleasure, through my books, such as Playing a Day, of starting off the careers of many of the greatest names in popular music. So if you've got a guitar, we're on our way, because I'm here as your personal tutor. And everything that you'll need to know will be here on the screen. And soon, you and I will be playing together with our own backing group. Now, all guitars are tuned the same way, and they're fingered with the left hand in the same way. So whatever type of guitar you have, these lessons are for you. And by the way, if you happen to be left-handed, don't worry, because left-handed people hold and play the guitar the same way as everyone else. Fingering with the left hand, and strumming or picking with the right. This is a Spanish or classical guitar, as it's more often known. And its three top strings are made of nylon, and the lower three strings are nylon wound with a fine wire. And by the way, when I talk about top strings or bottom strings, I'm referring to the sound they make, not their position on the guitar. As you can see, the top string in pitch just happens to be nearest the ground. So remember, the highest sounding string is the top string, and the lowest one is the bottom string. All the other guitars have steel strings, but never put steel strings on a classical guitar, because they would strain it. Always use nylon strings, which are lighter and sweeter in sound, like this. As you saw, I plucked the strings with my thumb and fingers of the right hand. But you can strum across the strings with the thumb like this, or with the nail of the first finger like this. And that helps you to get a nice rhythmic sound. But to play this way on a guitar with steel strings would make the thumb or finger sore. So we use a plectrum to strum these guitars with. And by the way, there's no rule that says you can't strum a classical guitar with a plectrum either. In fact, many players do. This is an acoustic guitar, and it's similar to the classical guitar, but has a slimmer fingerboard, and it has steel strings, which means it's louder than the classical guitar. Notice that it's got a round sound hole in the soundboard like a classical guitar. And this has a plectrum guard to guard against the plectrum scratching the body. The electric guitar doesn't have such a deep body as the previous guitars, because it's only partly acoustic, and it has F-shaped holes cut into it instead of a round sound hole. Also, it has a tailpiece to which the strings are attached. Now, these magnetic pickups send the vibrations of the steel strings through to the amplifier. And these are the volume and tone controls. Notice the vibrato arm, which does this. And it has a cutaway body so that you can finger the high notes easily. Finally, the solid body electric guitar, which can be almost any shape because it doesn't have any real acoustic qualities. It relies entirely on pickups and amplifier to produce its sound. Notice the position markers. They're there to guide you as to where you're playing on the fingerboard. As I've mentioned, all the guitars are tuned the same way. Now, you might find it difficult at first to get your guitar in tune, but with a little perseverance, it becomes quite easy. And a convenient way of tuning your guitar is with pitch pipes. Now, these are 6 pipes, and they're joined together. And when you blow them, they give you the note to which you tune each string. For instance, this is the 6th string, E, and the 5th string, A, and the 4th, D, the 3rd, G, the second B, and the first E. And by turning the tuning keys, or machine heads as they're often called, you increase or decrease the tension of the string, which makes the sound of the note higher or lower. And your ear must be your guide. You'll have noticed that we have two E strings, a top E and a bottom E. Now, so that we're going to be in tune with each other, I'm going to give you the notes from my guitar so that you can tune your guitar to mine. Here's the sixth string, the fifth, the fourth, the third, the second, and first. I'll do that once more. You might find that after tuning all the strings, the ones you did at first have gone out of tune. This is because tuning a string changes the tension on the neck, which may affect the other strings. So you have to go back and check again. We all have to do this, so don't think there's something wrong with your guitar or your ear. For a beginner, it's easier to sit down and play, and it's good to have a little stool for your left foot, which puts the guitar in the right position for the left hand on the fingerboard and the right hand strumming. If you hold the guitar like this, and you can see my thumb is sticking up over the top of the fingerboard, you can't reach as far with your fingers as you can if your thumb is slightly behind the neck of the guitar like this. That's very important, as you'll see later. If you don't have something to rest your foot on, it's just as easy to cross your legs either way and rest your guitar on your leg. This also brings the guitar in the right position. And if you want to play standing up, which is good for stage work and showmanship, you'll need a shoulder strap. And as I said, all guitars are played in the same way with the fingers of the left hand, pressing down the strings on the fingerboard between the frets. And these pieces of metal set into the fingerboard are the frets. You can strum the classical guitar with the thumb or nail of the first finger, or you can pick the strings with the thumb and three fingers like this. Or you can strum with a plectrum. And I suggest that for now you use a plectrum, which will give you a louder tone. And of course, we use a plectrum on all guitars with steel strings. Here's a selection. As you can see, they are all shapes and sizes. This is the size and shape I prefer. A thick one is called a hard plectrum. It gives a louder sound. And a thin one, which is called a soft plectrum, gives a softer sound. Now, if you strum near the bridge, and this is the bridge, you get an incisive cutting sound. And if you strum near the fingerboard, you get a sweeter sound. I suggest we strum about midway for now, like this. And if you're using a plectrum on your classical guitar, I suggest you use a soft one, which is more gentle on the nylon strings. Now, you hold the plectrum between the side of your first finger and your thumb like this, with the tip of it about 1 centimetre showing like this. The other fingers are curled up slightly so that they're out of the way when strumming. And when you strum across the strings, the point of the plectrum should be pointing at the strings, and your wrist should be slightly arched so that you can strike across the strings as though you were flicking a bit of dust off them, like this. Using your wrist to make the action, not your forearm. You don't strike the strings too violently, just firmly enough to make the strings vibrate. And make sure that you're striking in a slightly curved arc. Not diagonally, because that will tend to break either the strings or the plectrum. And don't twist the plectrum as you strike the strings. Keep it square on. Now, if you dampen the strings with your left hand, like this, you can practice strumming with me and get used to the movement. Dampen the strings, just like this. Ready? Here we go. Remember, flick the wrist. Don't hold the plectrum too tightly, just tightly enough to stop it slipping, and keep the point of it towards the strings, striking them square on. Got it? A common fault of beginners is to be lazy and rest their elbow on the top of the guitar when strumming. But it's very important to have your elbow well over the guitar, with the guitar tucked comfortably under the upper arm. See what I mean? Remember, you strum with your wrist, not your forearm. Well, now that you know how to strum, let's learn a chord, because we're shortly going to be playing with our backing group. Chords are fingered with the left hand, and your fingernails must be kept short. And to get a clear note, your fingers must press the string down behind the fret. Not on it, but behind it. And you don't use the very tip of your finger, but more the side of the tip. You will find that your fingers feel sore at first through pressing the strings down, but don't worry, that happens to us all. Now, we number our fingers so that we can identify them when looking at chord diagrams. The index or first finger is called 1, then 2, then 3, and the little finger 4. And this is the chord diagram. Now, as you can see, it shows the 6 strings with the lowest sounding string, the 6th, on the left. The lines across are the frets, and the thick line at the top represents the nut of the guitar, this bit, over which the strings pass. In this chord, for instance, the first finger goes on the 2nd string behind the 1st fret, the 2nd finger goes on the 4th string behind the 2nd fret, and the 3rd finger on the 5th string behind the 3rd fret. Check your fingering with the chord diagram again, and you'll notice that the strings not being fingered have the letter O above them for open. That indicates you play them open without fingering them. Now, when you play this chord, which is a chord of C major, or C for short, you should keep your elbow in to your body like this, which will ensure that your hand is in the correct position for fingering, and that the strings are pressed down with the sides of the tips of the fingers. Now, it may look as though my fingers are on the frets, but in fact the sides of the tips are definitely behind the frets. You might also find that the fleshy pad of your finger, here, is touching the string next to the one you're fingering. And that, of course, will dampen the tone of the next string. If that is happening, try moving your wrist round the fingerboard like this, and your fingers will be able to press down at a different angle, clearing the other strings. After a little practice, you'll get the knack of keeping the soft part of your fingers away from the next string, and all the strings will sing out clearly together. Now, I'm going to count 4, and then we're going to start strumming together. And make sure that you keep time with me. Ready? Get the chord of C. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check that your left hand is like mine, elbow tucked into the body. Make sure that your right hand is striking across the strings with the plectrum point towards the strings, and that you are keeping in time with me. And we'll stop after I count 4. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I want you to stop and have a good practice. Play this chord, and afterwards we'll go on to playing with our group. Now we're going to be joined by our backing group, and I'm going to play the chord of C with you, but you'll also hear me playing the melody. But first of all, check your tuning with my guitar. So, fingers on the chord of C, and we'll start strumming, and then gradually the different instruments will join us so that you get used to the sound of playing with a group. Just you and I to start with. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Here comes the bass. And now the drums. Here's the piano. And here's my electric guitar. Stop after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You should practice that piece a few times to get the hang of it before moving on to our next piece, in which we will still use the chord of C, but our backing group will play a slightly different rhythm. For this next piece, I'll count 4, and we'll again add the instruments as we go. Get the chord of C, you and I to start with.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Here comes the bass. Now the drums. Here's the piano. Stop after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to learn another chord now, but before we go any further, let me tell you a little bit about the different types of chords. Some chords sound bright and happy, like this. These happy sounding chords are called major chords, and we already know one, C. But some chords sound as though they need completion or finishing off, like this. You want it to go on to... And these chords that sound as though they should resolve into another chord are called seventh chords. And we're going to learn one now. It's called G7. And as before, here's the diagram showing the strings, the nut, the frets, and the fingers. The first finger goes on the first string, the second finger on the fifth string, and the third finger on the 6th string. The 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings are open. It might sound a bit muffled at first, but let's try it. Check the fingering again, elbow in, thumb behind the neck and... Okay, now let's try a rhythmic beat playing the chord of G7. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as you could hear, the music sounded unfinished and incomplete. So when we play our next number together, we're going to finish off by playing just one beat of the chord of C. We will go from G7 to C. Now, you will have noticed that I count 1, 2, 3, 4 when we're playing. Well, there are always 4 beats to the bar in the music that we're playing at the moment. So remember, 1 bar equals 4 beats. I'm going to play the chord of G7 with you for 7 bars, and I'll count the bars as we go. And when we get to the 7th bar, we'll slow up, and on the 8th bar, we play just the chord of C just once. So 4 beats to every bar, and I'll count them as we go. Start with G7. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Chord of C. Now. Now, you might have been a little bit late changing to the chord of C. So practice that before we go on to play some more duets, because you'll need to be able to change smoothly from one chord to another without pausing or changing tempo. Just try it. C, G7, C, G7, C, G7, C, G7, C. Now that you've learnt to change from C to G7 and back again smoothly, let me tell you how we indicate when to change chords in music. This is a form of shorthand music. Every chord that you learn will have a name like C or G7, and they're named after the first 7 letters of the alphabet. And when you need to play a chord of C, we write just that, the letter C. Now, to indicate a beat or stroke across the strings, we use this sign. And if you want to play the chord of C 3 times, we would write it like this. And 4 times would be written like this. Most popular music is either written with 3 beats to a bar or 4 beats to a bar. We've already played a couple of tunes with 4 beats to a bar, and to indicate a bar of music, we have a sign like this, and another one to start the next bar off with like this. And the number of strokes or beats between the 2 bar signs indicate the number of beats to the bar. This would be 4 beats to the bar, and this would be 4 beats of C to the bar, because we put the name of the chord in place of one of the beat signs. And if we wanted to play 4 beats of G7, we would write this. So the following sequence of chords means 2 bars of C, or 8 beats, and then 2 bars of G7, or 8 beats, and then 2 bars of C. Let's hear how it would sound. Ready? I'll count you 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, C, G7, G7, C, By the way, you should get into the habit of reading ahead in music so that your mind is ready to tell your fingers exactly where to go for each chord change as soon as you reach it. Again, this needs practice to ensure that there is no slowing up or change of tempo. So you should try practicing 4 beats of G7 and then 4 beats of C and so on, because that's what we're going to do next. Well, if you can change from one chord to the other easily, you'll be able to join me in a duet in which we change chords. I've written a tune in which we play 1 bar of G7, and then 1 bar of C, then another bar of G7, then another bar of C, and so on. And as you can see that on the music. The rhythm section is going to start straight in with us this time, so check your tuning. E, A, D, G, B, E. Now I'm going to count 4. G7 to start then. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now I'm quite sure that you will have noticed that on the last bar of that piece we only played 3 beats. In other words, the 4th beat was not played, and in music, to indicate that a beat is to remain silent, we write what is called a rest sign. It looks like this. So the last bar would be written like this. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th beat is silent, so it's marked with a rest sign. And you'll also have noticed that we let the 3rd beat of the last bar sing on. In other words, we made a sort of pause on it. And to indicate any beat that has a pause over it, we write a sign like this. So the last bar sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, with a pause on it, and the 4th beat is silent. Let's try another piece using the same 2 chords, but this time the chords are in a different order. So you must follow the music very carefully. And remember to try and read 1 bar ahead, so that whilst you're reading 1 bar, your mind is preparing your fingers for the next chord in the next bar. This helps to keep the rhythm flowing. Oh, and there's one slight change in this piece. I want you to accent the 2nd and 4th beat of every bar, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Doing this gives a much stronger beat to the music, and the best way of doing it is, instead of striking across all 6 strings on every beat, as we have been doing, you gently touch some of the lower strings firmly enough just to make them sound on the 1st and 3rd beats like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try it with me. Chord of C. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you don't have to be too precise when touching the lower strings on the first and third beats, just as long as you touch some of them. Let's stop after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we go with He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. And you'll notice from the music that we only have 3 beats in the last bar, with a pause over the third beat and a rest sign for the fourth beat. Many tunes finish in this way, so you'll come across it often. Here we go then. Try and keep in tempo with me. And remember, if you can't keep up with me, you can wind the tape back as often as you like and keep on rehearsing with the group and I. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
We'll now try another piece using the same 2 chords, but once again they're in a different sequence and at a faster tempo. If you look at the music, you'll notice that in the 4th bar there are only 2 beats. So from the 3rd bar it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And the 3rd and 4th beats of the 4th bar are tacit, which means silent. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now you're going to play in a different rhythm, one with 3 beats to every bar. And this is called a waltz rhythm. And if you were to play the chord of C in a waltz rhythm, it would be written like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So let's try a little piece that I've written with 3 beats to the bar, and I want you to accent the first beat of every bar like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to use the same 2 chords, C and G7, and notice that on the last bar of this piece, we only play 1 beat. That's the first beat of the last bar, and we hold it with a pause over it. The 2nd and 3rd beats are silent. So don't forget, read ahead and accent the first beat of every bar. Ready?
1, 2, 3.
It's time to learn a new chord named G major, or G for short. Now don't get it confused with G7, which you already know, and we're going to use our fourth finger in this chord. Now as you know, the chord of G7 is played like this. But for the chord of G, we take the first finger off and we put the fourth finger behind the third fret of the first string like this. The open strings are the same as in G7, and the only difference is that you use the fourth finger instead of the first. Incidentally, your fourth finger will feel awkward to move at first, but I promise you that with practice, you'll soon get used to moving it easily. Try putting it up and down like this. Now, I've written a piece which only uses a chord of G, so you can get used to playing it in tempo. Once again, in the last bar, there are only 3 beats with a pause on the third beat. And remember, this is 4 beats to the bar, so accent the second and fourth beats. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Next, I want to show you a chord which is called D7. And as you can see from the diagram, the first 3 fingers are closer together on this chord, and they finger the top 3 strings like this. The 4th and 5th strings are played open, but you can see there's a cross over the 6th string. And that means that the 6th string is not played. You strike them like this. Now, if you do happen to catch the 6th string at first, it will sound slightly discordant, but it doesn't really matter for now, and you will soon learn to play it correctly. Let's get the chord now. 3rd finger on the 1st string, 1st finger on the 2nd string, and 2nd finger on the 3rd string. So let's try 2 bars of D7, and then 2 bars of G, and keep repeating that sequence. Okay?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now I'd like us to play a piece using all the chords that you have learned so far. That is C, G7, G, and D7. And the piece that we're going to play is that jazz classic, When the Saints Go Marching In. And by now you should be able to change from one chord to another quite easily. I'll tell you what, let's see how well you've been practicing. I'm going to say the name of a chord and you play it straight away. Ready? And I'll do them with you. C, G, D7, C, G7, D7, G, C. Now, if you were able to keep up with me, then we're ready for the Saints. But if you couldn't keep up with me, then please practice till you are familiar with all the chords. Here is the music, and if you look at the fourth bar, you'll see we only play one beat in it with 3 beats silent. So from the third bar, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And the second, third, and fourth beats are silent. So get your fingers on the chord of G. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's try another number using the same 4 chords, and the tune is the old jazz classic, Down by the Riverside. Now you'll see that at the start of the music there's a double bar with 2 dots behind it, and at the end there's a double bar with 2 dots in front of it. And that bar has a bracket over it with the figure 1. Now that means that you play up to that bar, then repeat back from the beginning and play the whole lot again. And on the repeat, you miss the bar marked 1, which is called the first time bar, and you go over to the bar which is bracketed and marked with a 2, which is called the second time bar. And we play 1, 2, 3 beats with a pause over the third beat, and the fourth beat is silent. In other words, the whole thing is played twice through. The first time playing the first time bar, and on the repeat you play the second time bar. So here we go with Down by the Riverside. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
With the 4 chords we've learnt, we can play what is known as the blues, or as it's mostly known, the 12-bar blues. And most pop tunes have 32 bars to a chorus, but the sequence of chords called the blues lasts for 12 bars only. And there's thousands of songs based on the blues sequence. Tunes such as Rock Around the Clock, In the Mood, Guitar Boogie, Blue Suede Shoes, and many, many more. In fact, jazz and pop musicians have been writing songs based on the blues for years and years. And I'm sure they're going to carry on doing so for a long time yet. Now, the blues can be fast or slow, sad or happy, but there's always just 12 bars based on this sequence. And the sequence is 3 bars of G, and then 1 bar of G7, then 2 bars of C, 2 more bars of G, 2 bars of D7, and finally 2 bars of G, making 12 bars in all. Now you should try and memorize the order in which these chords are played, because you'll find yourself playing this sequence many, many times because there's so many tunes written around it. So remember, 3 of G, 1 of G7, 2 of C, 2 of G, 2 of D7, and 2 of G. Now we're going to play a really slow blues to that sequence, and this time I want you to play the first beat as normal, but on the second beat you play 2 strokes of the plectrum, 1 down and 1 up, but they must be in tempo, like this. 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and on the third and fourth beats you play just 1 stroke on each beat. So it would sound like this. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 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 And you must make the upstroke of the plectrum just as loud as the downstroke, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, now we're going to play a slow 12-bar blues like this. 1, 2 and 3, 4, using our new rhythm.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now we're going to try the blues a little faster, and a well-known tune based on the blues is Frankie and Johnny. We're going to play it through twice, so that you'll notice that we've got the double bar at the start with 2 dots after it, and on the 12th bar, the double bar with the 2 dots before it, and the bracket with the figure 1 over it, which means we repeat the whole thing, and on the second time of playing it, we jump over to the bar mark 2. And this time, just accent the 2nd and 4th beats like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now let's get straight on with a much faster blues. It's the same sequence of chords which you should have remembered by now, but if you haven't, here they are anyway. And this time we're going to play the sequence through 4 times. So we have the 12th bar with the bracket 1, 2 and 3 written in, which means 3 repeats. And on the 4th time of playing it, we go straight to the bar with a 4 written over it, ignoring, of course, the bar with 1, 2 and 3 over it. So we play the sequence once and then 3 repeats of it, making 4 times in all. Ready?
A 1, 2, 3, 4.
So now you can play the blues, slow, medium or fast, and you'll find that there's dozens of well-known tunes you can use these chords on. Now I'm going to show you two new chords, and they are both what are called minor chords. Now, as you'll remember, I said that some chords sound happy and complete, like the major chords, C major for instance. Some sound unresolved and they're called seventh chords, like G7. But some chords sound rather sad, and these are known as minor chords. This one is E minor. It's an easy one to finger, and I think it sounds really nice. In fact, I think it's one of the nicest sounding chords on the guitar. Now here's the fingering with the first, second and third strings open. The third finger goes on the fourth string behind the second fret, and the second finger also goes behind the second fret on the fifth string. The sixth string is played open. Fingers in position then, and we'll play it together. Here we go with E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. After 4 we'll finish. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it should be fairly easy for you to play this chord. And by the way, when we write E minor, it can be written either as E min, an abbreviation, or EM, even more abbreviated. And that's the one we'll use. Now, while you're in the learning mood, let's add another chord to those you already know. It's another minor chord, and it's A minor. Again, a lovely sounding chord like this. We have the first string open. The first finger goes on the second string behind the first fret, the third finger on the third string behind the second fret, and the second finger on the fourth string also behind the second fret. The fifth and sixth strings are played open. Let's strum it together, shall we? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice sound, isn't it? I'll tell you what, let's practice changing from E minor to A minor. Then back again to E minor, then A minor. Then we can play a piece using both chords. Okay, 1 bar of each, and we'll start on E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. E minor, A minor, E minor, A minor, E minor, A minor, E minor. Right, now, if you're proficient at changing from E minor to A minor, you can play this next piece, which is a slightly different rhythm. Now, in the music, you can see there's an introduction of 4 bars, then our old friend, the double bar with 2 dots after it, so that we know that is where we're coming back to on the repeat. And 16 bars later, there's a first time bar, which means you repeat. But as we only go back to the double bar, we don't repeat the introduction, just the 16 bars from the repeat sign. And when we get to the first time bar, we jump over it and play the second time bar. Now the rhythm for this is the same as in the slow blues which we played before. That is 1, 2, and 3, 4. Do you remember? Check your tuning, make the chord of E minor, and try it with me. I'll count 4, okay? 1, 2, and 3, 4. Right, stop now. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Right, let's get on with our new piece, After 4. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, now that you've entered the exciting world of the guitar, the way ahead is open for you to go on to bigger and better things. And maybe, if you work hard, even a career in music. Just like so many guitar players I've helped along the road to stardom. But whether you want to play just for the pleasure of it, or whether you may eventually take it up professionally, I hope that you'll want to join me in another more advanced video session. In the meantime, let's play something really rousing to celebrate your achievements so far. Here's a piece based on the 12-bar blues sequence of chords which you already know. And we'll play it without the music on the screen. This time, you can play the rhythm part and I'll play the melody. So I'll say bye for now with Bye Bye Boogie. Ready? Here we go then. 1, 2, 3, 4.